MA087 chapter 2.1. This is about addition and subtraction of integers. Okay, 4 plus 6. We know actually how to add these two numbers. Okay, this is 10, right? So when you do this one, okay, let's learn the logic, the definition of this addition. Okay, on the number line, let's say this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And let's keep going to the right. And if you go to the left, then it will be -1, -2, and so on. So in this case, okay, 4 plus 6 is you are at number 4. You're at number 4. So let me put a dot, darker circle above this number 4. And the plus 6 means you are adding 6 to this number. So when you add, the number will be moving to the right. So move 6 units to the right. Plus 6 means move 6 units to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 units to the right. So the answer will be 10. So we know actually 4 plus 6 is 10, but 10 comes from this information. Starting at 4, you are adding 6 units to the right. Move 6 units to the right. Okay, that's addition. How about subtraction? We will do the subtraction later. Okay, then let's add these two numbers, -4 and -2. So this means the answer is -6. We know the answer is -6, but let's check why. Okay, starting at -4, so put a dark dot, put a dot above this -4, and then plus, I'm going to add something, and then number is -2. So if the second number is -2, then move 2 units to the left. So from this location -4, move 2 to the left. So move 2 units to the left. So we are at -6. So that is -6. So in this case, actually what we did is, okay, let's see this is addition, and these two numbers are what? These two numbers are negative numbers, right? So if you are adding two negative numbers, we get more negative numbers. So actually from this number 4, what we did is add, 4 plus 2 is 6, right? 6. So the number, actually the result will be -6. So we have, the number goes to the left. As you add negative numbers, the numbers goes to the left. Okay, so the answer will be -6. What we do is add 4 and 2, so that will be 6, and then we are going to the left, so put the negative sign. Okay, let's try more example. All right, let's add two numbers. One is negative number, -4. Negative is negative number, and 2 is positive number. So starting from -4, okay, put a dot, and I'm going to add positive number 2 to this -4. So 2 is positive, that means you are moving to the right 2 units. So 2 units to the right. So you are at -2. So the answer will be -2. Okay. Can you see what happens? Okay, so you are adding two numbers with different sign. And this example is you are adding two numbers that are same sign, right? Same sign. In this case, two negatives, and the first one is positive and positive. So one example is this one. You are adding two numbers, two positive numbers. You are adding two negative numbers. And this example is you are adding one is positive, one is negative number. Let's try another one. Okay, this example still similar to the number 3, right? Okay, so we are adding two numbers which are different sign. So one is positive, one is negative. So you are at number 4. So from this point, you're gonna add negative number. So when you negative number, you will move to the left 2 units. So move 2 units to the left. Right, 2 units to the left. So you are at 2. So the answer will be 2. So in that case, so there are 4 different examples. The first one is, the first 2 examples are you are adding 2 numbers with the same sign. Number 3 and 4 examples are you are adding 2 numbers with different sign. So there are rules for this one. So let's check how the rules look like. Okay, so when we add 2 numbers and those 2 numbers can be the same sign, so addend. So each number is called addend, and then adding these 2 numbers. So same sign means, it's either both positive or both negative. So 4 and 2 are positive numbers, right? And then this is, the second part is negative 4 plus negative 2. So these 2 numbers are negative numbers. So addends have the same sign. Then how do you add these 2? Simple. Add the absolute values of the numbers, then attach the sign of the addends, which means, okay, for example, 4 plus 2. 4 and 2 are positive numbers. So when you add these 2, then it is 6, right? It is 6. Then what is the sign of these 2 numbers? It's positive. So positive, in this case, this is positive 6. How about this one? Okay, the absolute value of add the absolute values of the numbers. So negative 4 and negative 2, they are both negatives. So, okay, we will just add the absolute values. Then what are the absolute values? Okay, the absolute values is just make the number positive. So something like this. We will use the 2 bars like this. So this means absolute value of 2. How do you read this one? Absolute value of negative 2. We call this absolute value of negative 2. This is how we read. Then make this negative 2 positive. Make it positive. So it will be, so negative 2, right? It was negative 2. But how do you make it positive? Well, put the negative sign outside. So this is the opposite of negative 2, right? Opposite of negative 2. So negative, and then parenthesis, negative 2 becomes positive 2. So absolute value of negative 3 means what? This becomes 3, right? 3, because you can get rid of this negative sign. So it will be positive 3. But actually, positive 3 comes from this, opposite of negative 3. So this one becomes positive 3. So these are the absolute values. So for this example, negative 4, absolute value of negative 4, what's the absolute value of negative 4? That is 4, right? And then absolute value of negative 2, that is 2. So add the absolute values of the numbers. So I'm going to add 4 and 2, which is 6, right? Which is 6. So the answer will be 6, but not yet. Then attach the sign of the addend. So the sign of the addend is negative, so put the negative sign. So that is how we add 2 same, add numbers with the same sign. Can you see it? All right, then let's try more examples. Here, okay, I want to add negative 3 and negative 4. How do you add it? Okay, before we add it, what is the absolute value of negative 3? The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. And the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. So what we're going to do is, we will add 3 and 4, right? 3 and 4. And then put what? The negative sign. Because these addends have the negative sign. So it will be negative 7. Make sense? Okay, let's try more. Another example. Okay, absolute value of, not absolute value, okay, negative 2 plus negative 6. All right, we are adding 2 numbers with the same sign. So we will add 2 and 6 first, right? 2 and 6. Because the absolute value of 2 is, negative 2 is 2, absolute value of negative 6 is 6. Make it positive. So add 2 and 6. Add 2 and 6, which is 8, right? 8. So the answer will be 8, but the sign is negative. These 2 numbers, 2 addends, have the same sign, which is negative. So put the negative 8. Another example. Okay, how about 4 plus 5? Okay, this is definitely 9, right? Definitely 9, because 4 plus 5 is 9, and then 4 and 5 have the same sign, which is positive. So the answer will be positive 9. So in that case, we don't have to put plus sign, right? So you can make it minus sign, negative something, if both numbers are negative. So you are adding two negative numbers, same signs, same sign number, then the result will be the same sign. Okay, next. Okay, next one is addends have now different signs. So look at these two numbers. These two numbers are called addends, right? Addend. So negative 4, so the first number is negative number, and the second number 2 is positive number. So when you add two numbers with different signs, this is how we do it. Okay, find the absolute value of the numbers. Okay, I want to find the absolute value of the numbers. So negative 4, what's the absolute value of negative 4? Okay, let me come over here. Okay, negative 4 plus 2, right? So what's the absolute value of negative 4? That is 2. What's the absolute value of 2? What is positive? The absolute value of positive is always positive. So what do? So find the absolute value of two numbers. Okay, we found it. And then subtract the smaller absolute value from the larger absolute value. Okay, smaller absolute value. Oh, sorry, this is 4, right? Sorry. Okay, this is 4. So absolute value of negative 4 is 4. So subtract smaller number from the larger number. So it will be 4 minus 2, right? 4 minus 2, which is 2. So the result will be anyway 2, but not yet, because we have the third step. So the third step is this. Okay, then attach the sign of the addend with the larger absolute value. So from this, the larger absolute value is 4. Then what is the sign of the number that has the larger absolute value, which is, okay, 4 is larger than 2. Then 4 comes from negative 4. So what is the sign of this number? Negative. So put the negative sign. All right, this is really, really important steps. So don't forget this step. So when you add two numbers with different sign, what do? Take the absolute value for each number and then subtract small number from the larger number. That means a larger number minus smaller number. So 4 minus 2. Then from this result, we will use the sign that has the larger larger absolute value. So 4 is larger than 2, so take the sign of negative 4, which is minus. Okay, that's how we do it. So the first step, so when you add two numbers with different sign, the first step is what? Find the absolute values of each number. Number 2, subtract smaller absolute value from the larger absolute value. So larger absolute value minus smaller absolute value. Then finally, we will follow the sign of the number that has the larger absolute value. Okay. So subtraction is very similar to this. Very, very similar to this. So let's try more examples. Okay, so let's add these numbers. Okay, add 6 and negative 13. Different sign. We are adding two different signs, so let's find the absolute value. So what is the absolute value of 6? Of course, that is 6. How about the absolute value of negative 13? Then make it positive, so it will be 13. All right, then what do we do? Next step is larger number, larger absolute value minus smaller absolute value. So 13 is larger than 6, so subtract. Then there will be 7, right? And then what? Then the answer will be 7, but not yet. We will follow the sign of the number that has the larger absolute value. So 13 is larger than 6, so we're going to follow this number, the sign of this number, which is negative. So put the negative 7. Okay, you have to keep practice this one. Alright, so we put the negative sign because the third step is this one, right? Because negative absolute value of negative 13, which is 13, right? So this is greater than absolute value of 6. So we will attach what? Negative sign, right? Attach the negative sign. To the result 7. Okay, so I think something is okay, let me erase this part. So attach the negative sign, which is minus, right? Minus negative 7. Okay, let's try more examples. Alright, so let's add these two numbers, negative 8 and 2. So negative 8 and 2 are different signs. So when they are different, we will get, the first step is find the absolute value of each number, which is absolute value of negative 8 is 8, and the absolute value of 2 is 2. Then which one is larger? 8 is greater than 2, right? So the second step is larger number, larger absolute value minus smaller absolute value, which is now 6. And then number 3, so the absolute value is 8 is larger, so negative absolute value of negative 8 is greater than absolute value of 2. So we will take the attach the sign, the negative sign, right? Because negative 8 is absolute value of negative 8 is greater than absolute value of 2. So take the sign of negative 8. Take the sign of this number, negative. So attach the negative sign. So that will be, what's the answer for this one? So the answer will be, the result is 6, but we're going to put the negative sign. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, how about this? 8, okay, 6 plus negative 4. Okay, then 6 is, what's the absolute value of 6? Which is 6. And absolute value of negative 4 is 4. Then which one is larger? 6 is larger, right? 6 is larger. So 6 minus 4 is 2. Alright, then number 3 is, what is the sign of the larger absolute value? So absolute value of 6 is greater than absolute value of negative 4, right? Because 6 is greater than 4. 6 is greater than 4, then 6 comes from absolute value of 6, 4, and then this 4 comes from absolute value of negative 4, and negative 4 is the second number. So the absolute value of the first number is greater than the absolute value of the second number. So what do? We take the sign of this one, the larger number, larger absolute value. So take the positive sign, right? So the answer will be, the result is 2, and the sign of the larger absolute value is 6. So sign is positive, so you don't have to put plus 2. So 2 is enough, right? So whenever the sign is negative, you put the negative, but if it's positive, then just leave it as it is. Okay, let's check some definition. Okay, the opposite of a number. Okay, what's the opposite of number? So that means the opposite of, so let's say opposite of number, example. Okay, the opposite of negative 8. Then the opposite of negative 8 is positive 8. And I'll change the sign of this number. How about this? So let me write it here. The opposite of negative 8 is 8. How about, what's the opposite of 7? Then the opposite of 7 is, change the sign, so negative 7. Alright, let's try more. What the opposite of, okay, opposite of 5. What's the opposite of 5? Okay, opposite of 5 means actually you are making, you put the negative sign in front of this number. So negative 5. How about, try more. The opposite of negative 6. that means you have a number negative 6. What you do is put the negative sign in front of this. So that will be positive 6. So if there's a negative sign outside, that means it's opposite of this number. Make this number, change the sign of the number. That's the opposite of a number. So opposite of number means change the sign of this number. Or same as this, additive inverse of a number. So additive inverse of a number means change the sign of the number. Make the number have different sign. So the opposite of number means additive inverse of a number, same. These two are the same definition. So when you add two numbers, so let's add the sum of a number. So let's say sum of a number and it's additive inverse. The additive inverse is what? The opposite of this number, right? Then that is always equal to what? 0. So 8 plus negative 8 is equal to 0. You have a negative 8. Then what's the opposite of negative 8? Then that will be 8, right? 8. So these two numbers are one. Okay, we are adding two numbers. One is 8 and the other one is its inverse, an additive inverse, or the opposite of the number. Then this is equal to always 0. So you are adding two numbers, two same numbers. You are adding two same numbers with different sign, then the result is 0. So let's learn more properties. Okay, first of all, addition property of 0. Okay, addition property of 0 means you are adding 0 to a number. So a plus 0 is the number itself, right? A plus 0 is a. And then 0 plus a is also a. So when you add 0 to a number, then the result is 0. So whether a is the first number or second number doesn't matter. It's always the number itself. So it is called addition property of 0. Very important part. This is really important. A plus 0 is a. 0 plus a is a. Very important. And then a commutative property of addition. So this means you are adding two numbers, a and b. Then you can switch these two. A and B. Change the order of A and B. So you can make it A plus B plus A. So switch these two. Switch. So that is called commutative property of addition. And associative property of addition is, okay, look at, you are adding three numbers and the order of these three numbers are the same. So left side of the equation is A plus B plus C. The right side is A plus B plus C. Associative property is just group differently. So you are adding the first two numbers and this will be, so add the first two numbers and add C to the result. Or you can add the last two, B plus C first. So add B plus C and then add A to this result. So in this case, the result will be the same. So grouping. So association property is, grouping is different. The order of the numbers are the same. A, B, C, A, B, C, they don't change. A, B, C, the order of A, B, C are the same. Three numbers are the same, but only the grouping is different. But commutative property, A, B, B, A, the order is different. You are changing the order, right? A plus B, and the second part is B plus A. So you can switch A and B. So you are changing actually the location of A and B, the order of A and B. So changing the order is the commutative property, but grouping, making a group, different group, is associative property. Okay, the inverse property of addition is this. Okay, here's a number A, and then you are adding the opposite of this negative A, opposite of this A, so which is negative A. Then what is the result? 0, that's 0. So the inverse property of addition is you are adding a number and the result will be 0. So that, these two numbers are what? Additive inverse each other, right? Do you remember this? The sum of a number and its additive inverse. Or you're adding a number, sum of a number and the opposite of that number is always 0, that's 0. So this is inverse property of addition. Inverse property of addition. Or negative A plus a. Then the result is 0, right? 0. So you are adding two numbers with two different signs. Then the result is 0. We call this the inverse property of addition. So let's try some example. Okay, so here's negative 8 plus 0. Then what is the result? Negative 8, right? Negative 8. So what's the property of this one? Addition property of 0. Addition property of 0. Okay, how about this? 4 plus negative 2. Then can we switch these two? So negative 2 plus 4. Switch these two. So the result will be, what is the result? Oh, it's 2, right? 2. But we are just defining the property. So what's the property for this one? That is commutative property of addition, because we are just exchanging the order. So this is commutative property of addition. The first one is the addition property of addition, right? I'm sorry, addition property of 0. Addition property of 0. Okay, how about this? Here's negative 6, 3 plus negative 1. So let me write these three numbers. And then what I'm gonna do is, okay, so we are adding three numbers. So why don't we add the first two? Or can we add the last two? Still the result is same, right? Then what's the property of this one? That's the associative property of addition. Associative property of addition. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, 9 plus negative 9. Then the result is 0, right? Then what do you call this property? That's the inverse property of addition. So that's the inverse property of addition, right? Addition. All right, then let's add all these numbers. So why don't we add from left to right? So negative 2 plus negative 3. Then these two are the same sign, right? Same sign. So why don't we add the absolute value of these two? So absolute value of negative 2 is 2. And then absolute value of negative 3 is 3. So adding these two numbers, 2 plus 3 is 5, right? And then since these two are the same number, same sign, we will use the negative. So attach the negative sign. All right, then let me write other numbers as it is. Okay, next step, let's add these two. And these two numbers have the same sign. So add 5 and 1, which is 6. And then put the negative sign because these two numbers have the same sign. All right, and then negative 2 plus negative 1. Let's try more. So add these two numbers and they have the same sign. If they have the same sign, then what do? Add the absolute values. So 6 plus 2 is 8, and then put the same sign. All right, one more. So adding these two, same sign, right? Same sign. So the result will be 9, and put the sign of these numbers, negative 9. All right, is negative 7 a solution of the equation x plus 4 equals negative 3? So that means we have to check whether this equation is true, right? Whether this equation is true. So let's plug in negative 7 for x. So replace this x with negative 7 and then add these two numbers. And these two numbers have the different sign. What do we do different sign? Take the absolute value and then actually we are doing subtraction, right? Subtraction. So the absolute value of negative 7 is 7. And absolute value 4 is 4, right? Which one is greater? Negative 7 is greater. So what we do is 7 minus 4, right? So okay, can you see it? So what we do is 7 minus 4, which is 3. So put 3, but since 7 is larger than 4, take the sign of this number 7, negative 3. So finally, negative 3 is same as the right side. So Therefore, yes, negative 7 is a solution. Okay, so when you add two numbers with different sign, what do? Take the absolute values and then subtract. So larger absolute value minus smaller absolute value. And then the sign is the number whose absolute value is larger. Okay. Okay, now evaluate negative x plus y, and the value for x is negative 11 and the value of y is negative 2. So what we do is replace this x and y with their values. So negative, what's the x? X negative 11. So instead of writing negative 11, put parentheses around the number. So always when you replace a number, put parentheses to protect that number. So let's evaluate. So let's calculate this one. All right. So negative, isn't this opposite of negative 11? This means opposite of negative 11. That means opposite means change the sign, right? So this will become 11 plus negative 2. Right? So this means opposite, right? This means the opposite. This is the opposite, right? Opposite means put the negative sign, opposite of negative 11. So it will be positive 11, right? Positive 11. So you can think of this one. Negative times negative is positive. Negative times negative is positive, or opposite of negative number is positive number. Alright, then these two numbers have different signs. Then what do? The absolute value of 11 is greater than the absolute value of negative 2, right? So what we do is 11 minus 2. So 11 minus 2, which is 9, right? 9. So the result is 9. And then the sign of absolute value 11 is what? 11, right? 11. That's positive. So leave it as 9. Alright, now subtraction. Subtracting two integers. Okay, now how do you read the first one? This is 9 minus 3, right? So if this is a minus, then this is subtraction. So 9 minus 3. How about the second one? Negative 9. Is it minus 9 or negative 9? This is a number, right? Number. So this is number, so we read it as negative 9. Because this is a negative number, so read it as negative 9. And then this is minus 3 or negative 3. You are subtracting a number, so this is minus. So even you have this one, sometimes this is a negative number. You read this one as a negative. Or sometimes you read this as a minus. So when a number is a negative number, then put a negative sign. If a number is negative, then read this as a negative number, like this. Negative number. If two numbers are subtracted, something like this, then this is minus, right? 5 minus 6, or negative 5 minus 5. So this is, or minus. So minus is an operator, just like addition. Okay, the third one is what? 9 minus negative 3, because the second number is negative number, so negative 3. Okay, the last one, this is negative 9 minus negative 3, because this is addition or subtraction, right? Subtraction. This is operator, so minus, and this is negative 3 is negative number. So in that case, these two are the negative numbers, and this is minus. For this one is positive number, the other one is negative number, and minus. You are doing a subtraction for these two numbers. One is negative, one is positive. This one is positive and negative. So that is how we read. If it's a number, then this minus sign is a negative number, right? Negative. You read it as negative. If it's subtraction, then read it as minus. Okay, now when you do a minus, okay, subtraction, okay, always change the minus to plus. So that is much easier. So let's say here, really, this is a really important concept. So you have the first number. The first number minus the second number. So that will be equal to, so the first number is unchanged. So leave the first number, but change this minus to plus. Okay, plus. Then the second number becomes the opposite. The opposite of the second number. Okay, so for example, this is really important. Okay, let's say here is 8 minus 15. Okay, minus 15. So the first number is unchanged. And then we want to change this minus to what? Change this minus sign to plus sign. Then what happens to this second number? Okay, the second number is 15, not minus 15. The second number is 15. So what's the opposite of 15? The opposite of 15 is negative 15, right? So we just changed this minus sign to plus sign. Then this 15 becomes the opposite of 15, which is negative 15. Then the result is negative 7, right? Negative 7. Because you are adding two different numbers, two different signs, adding a number with different signs. Then what? It's a subtraction, right? Subtraction. So larger absolute value, which is 15, minus smaller absolute value, which is 8. So 15 minus 8 is 7, and follow the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. So take negative sign, so negative 7. Okay, let's try more example. So here is 8 minus, and this time negative 15. Then what do we do? So that is 8 is unchanged, and this minus sign is converted to plus. Then what's the opposite of the second number? Negative 15. That is positive 15, right? So that will be 15. So this is equal to, we are adding two numbers with the same sign. So just add up these two numbers. Make sense? Okay, let's try another one. Okay, the first number is negative 8 and then minus 15. Okay, then the first number is unchanged, and change this minus sign to plus, and the opposite of 15 is negative 15. And I will put parentheses around this negative number. Then, okay, when you add two numbers with the same sign, what do we do? Add, right? Add. Same sign, then add, so which is 23. How about the sign? Follow the same sign, negative 23. How about this? Negative 8 minus, this time negative 15. Okay, the first number is unchanged, and the minus sign becomes plus. Then the second number is negative 15. Then the opposite of negative 15 is positive 15. Okay. Then you are adding two numbers with different sign. Then the absolute value is 15 is greater, right? Absolute value of 15 is larger than the absolute value of negative 8. So this is 15 minus 8, which is 7. And then follow the sign of 15, which is positive. Okay, so this is really important. So when you subtract two numbers, change the negative sign, minus sign to plus, and the second number will become the opposite of the second number. So in this case, minus sign becomes plus, and 15 becomes negative 15. So actually, this minus 15 becomes negative 15. And this minus becomes plus, then negative minus 15. Negative minus 15. Isn't it opposite of negative 15? So this is positive 23, right? Positive 15. Okay, so you need to practice as many questions as possible so that you will get familiar with this, changing the sign. Okay, now let's evaluate a minus b for a equals negative 2 and b is negative 9. So when you evaluate an expression, what we do is replace the variables a and b with their values. So a is -2, so replace a with -2. So here is a minus b, then just replace it. So a is -2 minus b is -9. So when you replace a number, replace a variable with a negative number, then always put parentheses around. Okay, then it's easier to read and calculate. Alright, since we have a minus sign, what do? Let's make it plus, right? So -2 plus, and this -9 becomes +9. Then you are adding, or you can do this way. Okay, you change this one to plus, right? Change it to plus, then opposite of negative is positive. Opposite of negative is positive, so the second number will be 9. Alright, then you are adding two numbers with different sign. So larger absolute value minus smaller absolute value. So 9 minus 2, right? So this is 9 minus 2, which is 7. And then follow the sign of the larger absolute value, which is 9. Sign of 9 is positive, so leave it as it is. Okay, please practice. Okay, is -4 a solution of the equation? Okay, so we have an equation, 3 minus a equals 11 plus a. So when we check whether -4 is a solution, then let's check whether the left side of the equation and the right side of the equations are the same. So let's replace a with the value -4. So 3 minus -4. And then the right side is 11 plus -4. Okay, then check and then simplify the left hand side. So this is equal to 3 minus, change minus to plus, then -4 becomes the opposite, which is +4. Then the left side is 7, and the right side. Okay, right side is, this is plus, right? Plus, so we can add these two with different sign, right? Different sign. So larger absolute value 11, and the smaller absolute value is 4. So 11 minus 4 is 7. And then the sign of the larger number is 11, right? So that's positive. So they are equal. So yes. So the answer is yes. -4 is a solution. Solution of the equation. Okay, let's subtract these numbers. So whenever there's a subtraction, minus sign, then what do? Convert this one to plus, right? So this minus sign becomes plus, and this 30 becomes -30, the opposite. And this minus, so this minus becomes plus, and -12 becomes +12. +12, you don't have to put parentheses. The -7, so minus becomes plus, 7 becomes -7, the opposite, right? And finally, this minus becomes plus, and the opposite of -14 is +14, so put 14. So we converted a minus sign to plus sign. And then everything is addition, so let's do it from left to right. So these two, adding these two, and the sign of these two numbers are the same. So same sign, then what do? Follow the sign of the number and then add these two numbers. So 8 plus 30 is 38. Plus 12. Okay, let's try more. Alright, then next, adding these two numbers with different sign. Okay, the sign is different. Then the absolute value of 38, -38 is larger than 12. So we will follow the sign negative and then subtraction, 38 minus 12. So 38 minus 12, or minus 12. You are adding two different signs, then that's subtraction or subtraction. Larger absolute value, which is 38, minus smaller absolute value, which is 12. Then that is equal to 26, right? So this will be 26, but the sign will be minus because 38 is larger than 12. So take the negative sign. Okay, plus -7, and then plus 14. All right, so let's add these two numbers, and these two numbers have the same sign. So use the same sign and then add two numbers. 26 plus 7 is 33. So 27 plus 7 is 26 plus 7 is 33, and take the sign of this number. Okay, finally, these two have the different sign, and 33 is larger than 14, so subtract. 33 minus 14 is 19, and then take the sign of 33, which is minus, because 33 is greater than 14, right? So that's the solution. I mean, this is the answer. Okay, let's subtract these two numbers, and these two numbers are a little bit larger. So first of all, change this minus sign to plus sign. Then the negative 259 becomes positive 259. And these two numbers have different sign, right? Different sign. So larger number minus smaller number. Then there will be 9, 3. So that is 39. And the sign of the larger number is what? 259 is positive, right? So the answer will be 39. Okay, let's find the distance between 2 points A and B. Okay, so distance is what? The distance between 2 points is the difference of, okay, this is the difference of 2 points, right? Difference of 2 points. And the distance is always positive. Always positive. So the difference D can be written as, it is a difference of 2 points. So it can be A minus B, right? A minus B. But the distance is always positive, so we can make it absolute value. So no matter what the value of A and B are, what we can do is subtract these two numbers and then make it positive. That's the distance. So distance is always positive. All right, so you can write it as this. So the distance D equals absolute value of A. The value of A is given 7, and then minus B is negative 8. So you can put parentheses around it. Then that's the absolute value of 7. So this minus sign becomes plus, and negative 8 becomes positive 8. Then absolute value of 7 plus 8 is 15. And then absolute value of 15 is still 15. Because 15 is already positive, so it's positive. So that is how we can find the distance between two numbers. So subtract two numbers and then take absolute value, make it positive number. Alright, so this section is really important because we did addition and subtraction of two integers. So always when you add or subtract, okay, for subtraction, change the minus sign to plus. And then when you do addition, always check the sign of two numbers, two addends, right? Two addends, whether they are the same sign or different sign. If they are the same sign, then just add two numbers and then follow the sign. If two numbers are positive, then the result is positive. If two numbers are negative, then the result is negative. So just add two numbers. But when you add two numbers with different sign, different sign, then what do you do? If it's a different sign, then we have to check. Okay, adding two different sign numbers, then that is a subtraction. It becomes a subtraction. So larger number minus smaller number. So larger absolute value minus smaller absolute value. Then the sign of the result will be the sign of the larger absolute value number. Okay, so practice this. It's a really important concept.